Chapter 1. The Fight Between the Roosters. Once again today, my rooster was being chased. It was when I came out after lunch, planning to go to some road work. As I was about to head up the mountain, I heard the sound of flapping wings behind me. Startled, I turned my head and, sure enough, there were two of them again. Johnson's rooster, with a large comb and a sturdy body, much like a badger, was mercilessly attacking my smaller rooster. And it wasn't just a simple attack. First, with a flutter, it pecked at the crown and stepped back, and after a brief pause, with another flutter, it pecked at the neck. In such a big way, it relentlessly pecked at my rooster. Each time it pecked, my naive rooster lost its beak against the ground in pain, letting out the pitiful cries of kick, kick. The wound on its crown not even fully healed, it pecked again and freshly let the blood drift down. As I stood there quietly watching, it felt as if my head was about to burst and bleed, and anger surged within me. I almost grabbed the wooden stick from my carrier to rush over and strike Johnson's rooster, but I changed my mind and just swung it in the air to scare them apart. It must have been Johnson who started the fight again. No doubt, she did it just to get under my skin. I don't understand why that girl has been growling at me so much lately. Even with the potato incident 4 days ago, I didn't do anything wrong to her. I was building a fence. If she had nothing to do, she could just go and get a horse. But not instead. She would quietly sneak up behind me, without making a sound, and say this. "Hey, are you working all by yourself?" with pointless chatter. Until yesterday, she and I barely spoke, and even when we met, we just pretended not to see each other, keeping things civil. But suddenly today, she became unexpectedly bored. She suddenly, acting all grown up, looked at me working and said, "Why are you working alone? Shouldn't you be working with others?" "Of course, I'm working alone. Who else would I have?" And I grumbled back. She replied, "Do you enjoy working, or it's only midsummer? Why are you already building a fence?" After rambling on with her nagging, I covered her mouth with her hands, as if worried someone might hear, and then giggled inside her hand. There was nothing particular funny, so I started to wonder if this girl had gone mad with the warmer weather. A little while later, she glanced towards her house, then pulled her right hand out from under her apron and suddenly thrust it under my chin. In her hands were 3 large, freshly baked potatoes, still hot and steaming. "You don't have this at your place, do you?" she boasted, speaking as if to show off. Then she told me to hurry up and eat them here, before anyone found out, as if it would be a disaster if someone knew she gave them to me. And then she added, "The spring potatoes are really tasty, you know." "I don't eat potatoes. You eat them yourself, I replied. I didn't even bother turning my head and simply pushed the potatoes back over my shoulders with the same hand that I was working with. But she still didn't leave. In fact, her breathing became increasingly heavy and irregular. What's going on? I wondered, and I finally turned around. I was truly surprised. We had been living in the village for almost 3 years, but never before had I seen Johnson's usually tanned face turned as red as a beetroot. Her eyes were filled with anger as she glanced at me for a while, and then, to my astonishment, tears began to well up. She grabbed the basket again, clenched her teeth, and ran off recklessly along the field edge, nearly stumbling as she went. Sometimes, when an elder in the village would tease her by saying, "You should hurry up and get married," she would confidently reply, "Don't worry, when the time comes, I'll be sure to go." That was Johnson, always so casual. She wasn't the kind of girl to get shy, nor the type to cry out of frustration. If she was truly upset, she'd be more likely to hit me hard across the back with her basket and run off. But instead, she left looking so strange, and ever since then, whenever she saw me, she would get so worked up it was as if she wanted to devour me. If not upsetting the potatoes was considered rude, then wasn't it also rude to keep down while singing? "You don't have this at your place, do you?" Actually, Johnson's family are the landlords, and rely on them for the land we farm, constantly bowing our heads. When we first came to the village without a place to live, it was Johnson's family who kindly lent us land and helped us build my family's home. And whenever my parents run short of provision during the farming season, they frequently borrowed from Johnson's family, praising them endlessly, saying there's no other family like theirs. Even so, it was my mother who warned me that if two 17-year-olds kept sharing and hanging around together, rumors would spread throughout the village. This was because if something happened between Johnson and me, her family would be furious, and we would lose our land and be kicked out of our house. Now, in this situation, this girl is getting all worked up for no reason, as if she determined to make my life miserable. It was the evening of the day after she left in tears. As I was coming down the mountain with a load of firewood, I heard the sound of a chicken squawking, as if it were being killed. I wondered if someone was slaughtering a chicken, and as I walked behind Johnson's fence, my eyes widened in surprise. Johnson was sitting alone on a porch, tightly gripping my hand in front of the eaves, angrily shouting, "You stupid chicken! Stupid! Stupid!" If she was even hitting his head, I might have somewhat understood. But instead, she was furiously punching its backside, as if determined to make sure it could never lay eggs again. My eyes were filled with rage, and my whole body trembled. But I quickly glanced around to make sure no one else was home at Johnson's house. Once I confirmed we were alone, I grabbed a wooden stick from my carrier and stood in the middle of the fence, shouting, "You little brat! Are you trying to stop my chicken from laying eggs?" But Johnson didn't seem startled at all. She just sat there calmly, continuing to beat the hand as if it were her own, shouting again, "Stupid! Stupid!" It became clear that she had been waiting, holding the chicken, knowing I'd come down from the mountain, and had started this scene on purpose to provoke me. But even so, I knew I couldn't just barge into someone else's house and fight with a girl. I realized that I was in a very disadvantageous position, so all I could do was strike the fence with my wooden stick every time the chicken got hit. The more I hit the fence, the more the woven branches sagged, leaving only the frame behind. Yet, no matter how much I thought about it, I was the only one at a loss in this situation. "Hey, you brat! Are you trying to kill my chicken?" I shouted furiously, glaring at her with fierce eyes. Only then did she scurried over to the fence, aimed the chicken at my head, and threw it over the fence. "Oh, disgusting!" she cried. "Who told you to hold on to it all this time? You silly girl! I'm not disgusting," I retorted, and behind me, in a voice barely audible only to me, "You idiot! Hey, you're born polite." That would have been enough. But then, "Hey, your dad is impotent, isn't he?" "What? My dad is impotent?" Determined to confront her, I quickly turned my head, but the sight of Johnson, who should have been peeking over the fence, was nowhere to be found. As I turned to walk away, she hurled another insult from beyond the fence. The thought of being insulted like this, without being able to respond, made me furious to the point where I didn't even notice when I stubbed my toe on the rock, and eventually tears welled up uncontrollably in my eyes. However, Johnson's intrusion don't end there. Whenever no one is around, she frequently brings her rooster and makes it fight with my rooster. Her rooster looks quite fierce, and since it's the kind of bird that would jump up even from street fight, she knows it'll always win. As a result, my rooster often ends up with its face and eyes flooded. Sometimes when my rooster doesn't come out, that girl lured it out with feet and forces them to fight. At this point, I couldn't have but prepare another plan. Chapter 2: The beginning of the counterattack. At this point, I couldn't help but prepare another plan. One day, I caught my rooster and quietly took him near the jar of fermented paste. People say, if you feed gochujang to a fighting cook, it becomes energized like a sick ox gaining strength from eating a venomous snake. I scooped out the dish of gochujang from the jar and brought it close to the rooster's beak. Surprisingly, the rooster, perhaps having acquired a taste for the paste, didn't resist her, and ate almost half the dish with ease. and since it wouldn't be able to show its strength right after eating, I locked it in the coop for a while to let it gather its strength. After carrying some manure to the field and spreading it, I took the rooster outside during my break. Fortunately, no one was around and only James was sitting crouched in a yard, either tearing apart old clothes or fluffing cotton quietly working. I went to the field where Johnson's rooster roamed and quietly placed my rooster down, watching carefully. The two roosters are still fighting, but at first it seems pointless. Johnson's rooster strikes first with a sharp peck, causing my rooster to bleed again. My rooster flaps its wings widely, jumping and jumping. But my rooster couldn't even make a single attack. Then it happened. Unexpectedly, it gathered its strength, lit up, and scratched the other rooster's eye with its claws, before coming down and pecking its head. The big rooster, startled by this, backed off in surprise. Seizing the opportunity, my small rooster swiftly attacked it again, pecking its head once more. And this time, even that fierce giant couldn't help but bleed. Oh, I've got it. All I need to do is feed gochujang. I thought, feeling extremely pleased with myself. At that moment, even Johnson, who had been startled by the rooster fight and was watching from outside the yard, frowned as if something tasted bitter. I clapped my hands on my thighs, exclaiming repeatedly, "Well done!" As excitement surged through me from head to toe. But not long after, I stood there silently, like a pillar, completely speechless. The big rooster, in retaliation for a single peck, fiercely attacked it again, then again. Then my rooster, unable to fight back, quickly weakened. Seeing this, Johnson burst into laughter, making sure that I could hear her from where she was. I couldn't stand it any longer, so lodged in, grabbed my rooster and took it back home. I regretted not feeding it more gochujang and starting the fight too soon. Returning to the jar, I offered more gochujang under its bed, but perhaps due to its agitation, it refused to eat. With no other choice, I laid the rooster on its back and forced a cigarette holder into its beak. Then I mixed some gochujang with water and slowly poured it into the opening. The rooster seemed a bit uncomfortable, sneezing and coughing. But I thought that its temporary discomfort was nothing compared to the pain that had been experienced from bleeding every day. However, after feeding him about 2 more bowls of gochujang water, I lost hope. My once lively rooster slowly twisted his head and went limp in my hands. Afraid my father would see, I quickly hid him in the coop. And it wasn't until this morning that he finally seemed to come to his senses, leaving the barely covered rooster behind. I went to get a firewood from the mountain. When I came back, I saw the fight had started again. That wretched girl must have taken advantage of no one being home, snuck in, and taken my rooster out of the coop. I picked up my rooster and put it back into the coop. But even though I was worried, I couldn't afford not to go to the mountain to gather firewood. As I gathered the dry, fine branches, I couldn't shake off my anger. No matter how much I thought about it, I just wanted to give that goal a good beating. I told myself that when I got back, I'd give her a proper thrashing across the back. Fuming with frustration, I quickly slung the firewood over my shoulders and rushed down the mountain. I was almost home when I suddenly stopped at the sound of a bamboo flute. Yellow camellia flowers were scattered between the large boulders at the foot of the mountain. There, sitting between the rocks, was Johnson, leisurely playing a bamboo flute. But what surprised me even more was the sound of wings flapping nearby. Without a doubt, she must have taken Malu's again to irritate me, setting another fight right at the spot on the point where I'd passed by. And there she was, casually sitting in front of it, playing a flute as if nothing was wrong. My anger had reached its peak, and not only was I burning with rage, but tears also burst from my eyes. In that moment, I was so angry that I didn't even have time to take off the wooden carrier properly. I just threw it aside and grabbed the carrier stick, rushing in a flurry. As I got closer, I realized my rooster was bleeding, just as I had suspected, and on the bulge of death. The fact that my rooster was in such a state was enough to make me furious. But what enraged me even more was seeing her sitting there, not even blinking, still playing a bamboo flute as if nothing had happened. I once thought she was a hard-working girl, even well known in the village for it, and I used to think she was ready to. And now, looking at her eyes looked just like those of a silly fox. I suddenly rushed in and, before I even knew what I was doing, struck the large rooster with a single blow, knocking it over. The rooster collapsed completely, and without moving a leg, died right there. I stood there, stunned, and Johnson came at me with her eyes wide, and I fell backwards onto the ground.
Why did you hit my rooster?
So what if I did? I said, trying to stand up.
Whose rooster do you think this is?
She shouted, grabbing my collar and shoving me again, making me fall over once more. As I lay there, I started thinking, feeling both frustrated and embarrassed. And then I realized that I had caused a huge mess. Perhaps my family might no longer be able to rent the land farm and could be thrown out of the house we are living in. I slowly got up, but before I knew it, a sob broke out, and I couldn't stop it, so I covered my eyes with my sleeve. As Johnson came closer, she asked,
So, now are you going to do as I say?
And when she asked, it felt like I finally saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to survive. I wiped my tears, not even knowing what exactly I wasn't supposed to do. But I just answered, yes, without any thinking.
From now on, you are supposed to listen to me. Got it? And you don't do that again.
She said, yes, yes, I won't do it again, I replied.
Don't worry about the rooster. I won't tell anyone.
And then, as if pushed by something, she collapsed onto my shoulder. With that, I also felt, and we both tumbled into the fully bloomed yellow camellia flowers. The sharp yet sweet fragrance overwhelmed me, and I felt dizzy, as if the ground beneath me was sinking.
You won't say anything?
I asked.
No, I won't,
she replied. After a little while, from down below, I heard a mother shouting,
Johnson, Johnson, where did that girl go in the middle of us sewing?
Her mother sounded furious, as if she had just stepped away from some air. Johnson, terrified, quietly crawled out from under the flowers and made her way down the hill. Afterward, I had no choice but to crawl behind a rock and make my escape up the mountain.